Hey guys, we're here back again. This time we are doing another video going over the huge debate that's been going on. It's basically been the fuel to the fire that's been going on any social media revolved around Vainglory lately for the last 2 to 3 days, which is the emulated controls being introduced to Vainglory in update 3.3. It has sparked a huge debate. Whether you're super negative about it or super positive, I think there's a pretty hard contrast right now. I'm more of the in-between. I see both sides. I understand the negatives, at least some of them. And then I definitely understand a lot of the positives. I gravitate towards more of the positive side. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably expected that. But I'm more looking at it at the bigger picture. Not the immediate effect, but more so what's going to happen in the future because of it. And why that's beneficial in every facet pretty much possible. So first I do want to go over the negatives. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll go ahead and progress into the positives. Or maybe just kind of talk on the fly and do both. I don't know. We'll just see what happens. So the cons, the negatives. So the first negative I see is definitely the idea that because I personally feel like touch controls are superior over joystick, I can see that there might be an issue where those new players who come into the game using joystick controls might have a disadvantage to those new players who are coming to the game using touch. So those players using touch will adapt sooner, and because it is the better control scheme, in my opinion, they might have an advantage over those using joystick, and that might cause a bit of a disparity when it comes to how balance is perceived in the early game or in the early levels of play. I think as time goes on though, it won't be as much of a concern because I think a lot of people will start to understand that touch is the control scheme to use if you want to reach the higher level of play. And now that they can play using joystick, it's allowing them time to slowly adapt. Rather than being forced to use touch right away, they can use joystick until they become comfortable using touch, and then they'll gravitate towards that in the later high level play. But again, the negative is that there might be a bit of an imbalance with new players using touch to those players using joystick, and that might draw some people away from the game. But I think in general, just being able to play the game in the way they want to, which is the emulated controls, which the vast majority of the player base on the mobile device platform is preferred to use emulated controls. That's just going to allow a lot of new players come into the game, which we'll get into a little bit later because it's a pro. But anyways, so con, imbalance in the early game. The second con that I see, and this is not so much how it affects players per se on a skill-based level or whatever it may be. I think it's more of a perception that's a negative. So what this is doing is it's breaking away from that idea that Vainglory is unique. And I think that's a huge thing for a lot of the veteran players because they're like, the reason why I started playing this game is because this game was unique. It was a 3v3, touch-based only, and it wasn't like any other game. The experience was far different, and that's why I enjoyed playing it because it wasn't like all the other MOBAs. Well, now they introduced 5v5, so that kind of broke that mold already. Like, well, it's not 3v3 based or only now, it also has 5v5, so it's kind of adhering to that mold that is all other MOBAs, which is 3-lane 5v5s, and which kind of was received in, I think, a 50-50. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But then, at least as far as perception goes. And then now they're introducing emulated controls, which even further emphasizes on the idea that they're becoming like every other MOBA. It's 5v5 3-lane, and they also have emulated controls. How is it even unique anymore? And why would I continue to play it if it's not even a different experience? I can just play whatever now, and it doesn't really matter because everything's the same. I still think Vainglory has some uniqueness to it. It definitely has unique characters. A lot of the characters themselves you wouldn't see in other games, as far as the design and the aesthetics. Like you wouldn't see somebody who looks like I can't really recall anybody who looks like Glaive and uses a rocket powered axe. I haven't really seen anybody like that. If there is, it's because I probably haven't played the game, but I don't really know anybody like that. The only closest thing I can think of is like Nautilus from League of Legends, kind of, but he's more like Churnwalker. I don't know. Well, he's more like Finn, but anyways, I digress. So that is one thing I definitely see, is that just the uniqueness of Vainglory kind of gets filtered out. It's not as unique as it used to be. It still has factors like some of the hero designs. And yes, people are going to mention in the comment section, They're not even unique, Rumbly. All their abilities are like other abilities in League of Legends and other games. Well, yeah. I mean, you're not going to be able to have every ability be unique in every facet possible because there's a finite amount of abilities. There's only so many ways you can shoot a fireball. There's only so many ways. So eventually you're going to have some abilities that overlap. The big thing is that there isn't a single hero in Vainglory that has abilities exactly like like a certain hero in like League of Legends, where every ability that hero has is just like another hero in another game. It might have bits of this hero, bits of this hero, and bits of this hero, and they all blend together, and that makes a unique hero. And aesthetically, it's also, like, again, unique. So that's kind of where that mentality goes. Is like, I don't really feel like that argument is completely valid. But anyways, moving on, we're kind of like derailing here. So again, the two cons that I see, at least immediately, and this isn't definitive, there might be more. And you guys definitely write in the comment section what you feel you don't like about the change coming to Vainglory and why. I would love to read that and see your guys' opinions. This is not I'm right, you're wrong, or you're right, I'm wrong. This is just a discussion. We're just kind of here to kind of talk about it and see what others are saying. But anyways, yeah, so pros, imbalance in the beginning as far as the two different control schemes. One might be better than the other. I don't really want to say which, but I definitely feel like it's touch. And then the second con is the uniqueness of Vainglory has kind of faded away. So those are the two aspects of it. The pros of the emulated controls coming to Vainglory are even more so. So we all know Vainglory is definitely not where it was before. Like, you can go to a Twitch stream, like one of the competitive matches, and the viewership is a fraction of what it was back in the day. Like, and I think it was 2016. I think it was like the excuse me, the pinnacle of Vainglory was like mid to late 2016, where it really spiked and hit. I was getting like 30,000 views per video. It was a huge spike, and like the streams on Twitch were like huge. It's like, oh my god, these are hitting pretty big milestones, and growth for everybody was like amazing. And well, then since then it's kind of tapered off, and now it's kind of on a decline, and it has been on a decline for a long time, as you'll see across my channel, across the official Vainglory channel, even channels that are coming up now. That are starting to come out, like D&Zo, T-Tigers, Flash X. Those people should be huge right now. They deserve so many more subscribers. I truly feel that way. Like, they are pro players. Their level of play is amazing. Like, I can't even understand or fathom how they play at such a high level so frequently. I mean, clearly it's practice, and they probably spend a lot of time doing such. But because of that, I feel like they deserve far more viewership. And they just don't get it because, well, the population isn't where it once was. And so therefore they're limited to growth, which is unfortunate because honestly, they truly deserve way more. But anyways, so that is a huge thing that's going to be rectified with the introduction of emulated controls, because it's going to bring a whole new breath into the game as far as the amount of players playing. And this kind of goes into the second one, which is balance in Matchmaker. So while Matchmaker right now, they've already admitted that there is some definitely some issues with it, as I'm having issues speaking English. There's definitely some issues with the Matchmaker in the current state, and they're working on fixing it. But one underlining factor that they can't fix unless the population grows is how many people they have within a given skill tier. And if the population is declining, that means every day there's less and less players within the range of your skill tier, meaning they have to keep expanding the range at which they group players together. So back in the day, you would have thousands of players in the tier 8 to tier 9, and so those matches would be relatively balanced. I remember back in the day, like, a lot of the matches were always like close calls. Like, man, this is really good. You had the occasional get your ass beat by like, a professional team, but a lot of times it was relatively balanced. But that's because there was far more players within that category of skill tier. As the player base dropped, that means there was far less players within your skill tier, and the range had to be increased more and more to meet the standard, which is the queue time. And people were like, "Oh, I'd rather wait 30 minutes to get a fair, balanced match." I call BS, dude. People are like, they always say that. Like, I would more than rather spend 30 minutes waiting in queue for a match than wait 5 minutes for an imbalanced match. BS. I mean, there might be some that do, but BS. I know so many people that complain more about the queue time than the imbalance. They're like, oh, this typical Vainglory, 20 minutes for my queue, fix this shit, Vainglory. Like, why do you think you keep getting these imbalanced matches? Because they're trying to restrict, or they're trying to not restrict the amount of players who can play against each other so they can increase or decrease the time it takes to find a queue. And so it's one or the other. You can't have short queue times and have a completely balanced match, or have a balanced match and have, wait, I just lost my train of thought. But anyways, you can't have both unless you have enough players. Now that's the only way you can have both, is if you have enough players. You can have short queue times, you can have balanced matches if you have enough players, which we currently do not. And therefore, that is why you can't have both currently. And so that's the issue. It's right now, there's no room to kind of fix it because you need more players. So that's what they're doing. They're introducing the controls that are joysticks to introduce a whole slew of new players into the game, bringing new life into the game. This is a huge explanation for one pro for the game, for the change. But so they're bringing a whole new breath of life into the game, increasing the player base, therefore increasing income revenue for the game, meaning a healthier game and the ability to bring out better and higher quality content for the foreseeable future. As there's less players, that means less resources to spend to make content, and the game just starts to just die off as far as quality and just overall enjoyment. Whereas if there's more resources, meaning more players, to buy skins or whatnot, and this is literally like every MOBA out there, it requires that people spend money in order for a game to survive. This is any game really. If you don't spend money on a game and no one does, that game dies. And that's a big factor too. There's people who like this game is a piece of shit. Like the content's horrible, the balance is horrible. That's why I haven't spent a single dime on the game. Well, you're one of the reasons why this game doesn't have content, because they can't afford it. They can't pay their employees. Like you have no room to complain about a game when you haven't invested a single dime into it. Meaning you have not supported the company that is bringing entertainment to you. So if you haven't spent a single dime, you have no say. If you spent, I would say, if you spent a total of $10 or more over the course of 3 years, you have a right to say something. I honestly truly feel that way. But if you haven't spent a single dime, shut your mouth. But anyways, going forward, so that was one pro. It was the longest explanation, but that's one pro. So it brings new life into the game. And so the other pro I would have to say is, with new life coming into the game means further development of the game, meaning bringing back esports, bringing back huge names into the game like Cloud9 and stuff like that, because obviously they left because of reasons of financial issues. Not them, but they just didn't see the prospects of Vainglory because it wasn't lucrative. They're investing more into the game. Well, that's wrong. There wasn't as much of an opportunity as there once was for Vainglory, and that's why those organizations left. And so if you can establish an audience and bring back that idea that Vainglory is healthy and looking promising, then those organizations should come back. And so that's another pro. And then the third pro is it's optional. It's a huge one. Like, the control scheme is optional, so you don't even have to use it. If you think like, oh my god, they're bringing the emulated controls to the game, it's gonna ruin the game, I'm leaving. Well, you don't have to use it. So it would be like nothing changed pretty much if you just choose not to use the control and continue to use touch, which is superior in my opinion. You don't have to use it. It's optional. Like those arguments, I'm just like baffled by. Like, dude. And I was reading some comments from Vainglory too. They're just like we don't get it. Like it's optional. Like, you don't have to use it. It's just there for those who want to use it. And pretty much, if you're using touch, in my opinion, you're going to just have more players to dominate over because they're using joystick and you're using touch because you're a badass, and you're going to go ahead and you just destroy them. You know, that's more entertainment in my book. I'm going to have more games to post, you know, because I don't lose. We all know that, right? I think that the general conception is like, oh yeah, Rumby doesn't lose. Look at his channel. I posted a lot. My last video was a loss, okay? I do post losses only when they're close, just like the last match. But when they're like me getting beat down, that's just fuel to the fire for you guys to like say, oh my god, Rumbly's a piece of shit. He doesn't know how to play. And no one wants that on their channel. No one wants to be insulted because they had a really, really bad game. No content creator, unless they're doing something where like they're like top 10 worst plays, funny moments of their gameplay, that's one acceptable way to do it without getting too much flack for it. But if you literally just upload just a regular gameplay of you getting stomped, you're gonna get so many dislikes and you're gonna lose so many subscribers for simply having that one bad game. Even though you may have like a 80% win rate, that one bad game that you posted is going to like destroy any retention, any audience you have. That's why a lot of content creators don't upload bad gameplays. But if you can go ahead and have some good moments in the gameplay and still have it balanced and be close, releasing something that where you lost is fine too. But anyways, we're getting derailed again. So again, the cons for me are the idea that there might be some imbalance between the two control schemes, and the uniqueness of Vainglory kind of fades away. The pros so far are the fact that it's going to bring new life into the game. It will help establish Vainglory to its once established glory, which is, you know, a thriving esports and a growing population in turn, which kind of connects to number one for the pros. But that's another pro. It allows it to develop further and bring it back to where it once was. And then the last one, what was it? Oh, it's optional. So the controls were optional, so therefore you don't have to use it. It will not affect you if you choose it not to be. If you feel like it's a horrible idea, turn off the control scheme and it'll be like it never happened. You're good to go. Outside of that, like I can't really see, you know, immediately, unless I were to really brainstorm, like any reasons why it would be any more positive, but that's not a bad thing. I think there's some pretty strong positive reasons why it would be a great attribute to Vainglory. It just allows a lot more people to discover and enjoy the game in a facet that they feel like is enjoyable, which is the emulated controls. A vast majority, I would say like 95%, maybe even more at this point, has widely accepted the emulated controls for any genre for a mobile game. And it's been adapted to, people are used to it. Excuse me. People prefer that control method because that's what they've used for every game they've played on mobile. Like every game uses it nowadays, literally, except for like maybe like games like Clash of Clans or I guess Supercell games. Like those type of games would be like the only ones I can really think of that are popular that don't use that control scheme. Anything else primarily uses emulated controls, and therefore because people are used to it, they don't like change, and so they don't want to use touch controls, at least initially. So again, if you can allow players to come into a game using a control scheme they prefer, this gives them opportunity to slowly test out touch controls and potentially adapt to that, and maybe even potentially change the outlook of touch controls on a mobile platform. A lot of people look negatively upon it, like, that's not ideal. It's not intuitive. But that's because the vast majority of players, or I would say the vast majority of games on mobile, don't use it, and therefore no one really understands how to use it. Whereas if a lot of games started using touch-based controls like Vainglory, it would be accepted already, but it's not. Everybody uses joystick controls. So that's the underlying issue there, is that people just don't like change. And this will help smoothen over that change. Give them an opportunity to test it out with touch, but if they still don't like it, they can still use joystick and still enjoy the game for what it is. So I guess that'd be like the fourth pro. But there you go. That is my opinion on the emulated controls. I know it's a long explanation. I'm gonna get the video, or that comment's like, oh, he's only talking about emulated controls and it's like a 20-minute video. Jeez, yawn. But, you know, I'm doing this video because I want to address the issue since it is a hot topic, and I kind of want to get your guys' opinion as well. Definitely write in the comment section down below what do you think about the joystick controls. Now, the final topic for me is voice controls. Honestly, like, the only con I can really see with voice controls is the level of toxicity. Obviously, there's going to be some issues with people like just, you know, saying that, you know, and verbally, dude, you're fucking trash. You're horrible. Go jump off a bridge or something like that, because that's the most common thing nowadays, is to tell somebody to commit suicide, which I don't understand. But I guess that's widely accepted. Okay, I don't know. It's weird. But anyways, you know, that idea that it will become more toxic is something that I can definitely see being a con. But they did implement a feature, from what I've understood, where you can simply mute people from the get-go. You don't ever have to even listen to them. Like, you can have a setting by default to where it says that you do not listen to people verbally through the voice chat. It's automatically muted from when you first get in the match. Or you can set it up to where you physically, individually mute people as you see fit. So, I mean, that feature is a huge pro because it allows you to use voice chat when you want to use it. So if you have people that you play with, that say for instance, like you have friends that you have on your friends list, and you happen to get in the same match, and you guys are not currently on Discord, you're like, oh crap, it's Ben Tim 1, because like that would happen. But anyways, if you were on, you know, I'd be like, oh shit, it's Ben Tim 1. Let me get on voice chat and let me tell him, hey Ben, get on voice chat in game. So he'll get on voice chat and I'll mute everybody else, you know. And me and him can just converse in game and kind of plan our fights, and, you know, and so on the fly you have immediate communication. You know, obviously you already have the pre-planned groups where you have, you know, communication already established in Discord. But for those moments where you randomly run into a friend, you can go ahead and talk to them on voice chat in game when necessary. So that's really cool too. And so that's going to be a great feature. I really don't see any, you know, solid negative factors on it because it's completely controlled. It's a controlled feature. Like, you don't have to deal with it if you don't want to. It's, again, an optional thing. Like, literally, this update, like, I feel like you can pretty much go on and update 3.3 and have it basically feel like 3.2 if you choose to just disable any of the new features. You can disable the emulated controls. You can disable the voice chat, and just keep playing like you normally would in Vainglory. I think that's an amazing thing. They bring new features that are optional. You can turn them on or off, and use them as you see fit. And it's not something like it's forced upon you anymore. Like, they don't say, here's voice chat and you're gonna have to listen to everybody now. No, it's here's voice chat and you can use it, or you don't have to use it. So that's really great. But anyways, there we go. That was the video. I don't want to go any further because it's pretty freaking long, and I'm sure like 90% of you aren't even going to get to this point. But that is my opinion on the whole emulated controls and the voice chat briefly. I really think that it's going to be a beneficial thing for the long run. There are some negatives I feel like that might show in the beginning, but it always is, I think it's going to generally feel like it's going to be a more beneficial thing for the longevity of Vainglory rather than the initial impact, which might be negative. But yep, there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed. And leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And now I'm going to go ahead and get some recordings done, since I know I desperately need some uploads with gameplay, since you guys have been waiting patiently and I've been a lazy motherfucker.